Is Alice Darling's story of friendship and abuse a trip worth taking? Let's find out now. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watch or Pass, and today I'm going to talk to you about Alice Darling, a new film starring Anna Kendrick that deals with her character Alice's journey through abuse and kind of understanding the effect that's had on her life. It is a thriller, it is a very stylish kind of film, it's a slow builder, and it's also directed by first-time director Mary Nighy. Actually, this film is a female-led film, so the director is a female, the writer is a female, and all the main cast members are female as well. So, and from that, you get kind of a slow, interesting look into how abuse can affect people and how it can kind of like affect those around you. So I'm going to tell you a little more about this film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like. There, I will have some light spoilers at the very end, but I will tell you when that happens. It's going to be in one of the things I didn't like. So before that, you can feel free to watch it. I will keep it spoiler free. But my hot take is, look, I think you should rent this film. I think this film does a lot right. It's a really solid directorial debut, and it deals with abuse in kind of a subtle, slow building way. I really liked how it kind of built out Alice's character and built out the situation that she was in, and didn't really kind of hit you hard until the very end. And so I really liked that aspect of it. But there are a few things I didn't love, and I'll go to those later. So overall, I think it's a rental. But like I said, in Alice Darling, you have Alice, who's played by Anna Kendrick. She is in a long-term relationship with her boyfriend Simon, who is an artist, and this relationship has affected her both personally and psychologically. You can kind of tell she has some tics at the very start, and while she's hanging out with some of her childhood friends she's known for her entire life, you can see that there is a controlling aspect, and this affects her friendships. This affects kind of her personally. And in this climate, Alice and her friends decide to take a trip up to a cabin up north, and that is where some revelations happen and some unpacking happens. So, things I liked about this movie. It's a weird first thing to say I like, but the music is phenomenal. It is a really kind of good atmospheric music that helps when you have this kind of like a thriller drama. It really does help to kind of heighten the tension when needed. Like at the start, when Alice's character is a little bit more closed, is a little bit kind of more not, she doesn't really let her personality out as much. There is some like nice, very subtle, like muted classical music that plays, which I thought was a really nice touch, especially when like everything around her is muted at that time. But as the film progresses, you get some more, some upbeat songs, you get some more kind of grand songs. The music really does help to kind of fit with Alice's mood throughout this whole journey. The second thing I love is the slow buildup. Like this film deals with abuse and it deals with some pretty kind of uh, not very visible abuse. It deals with like psychological abuse and kind of control issues, but that is introduced fairly slowly. At the start, it kind of you can see hints of what is happening. You can see things that are warning signs or even like actual abuse signs, but it doesn't kind of hit you with like a big aha moment at the very start. It kind of slowly goes, you slowly see what happens, and then towards, once Alice really kind of comes to terms with it, then you can kind of then you hear more about what has happened to her and more about like the things that have happened behind the scenes. But at the start, there is this kind of like nuanced, slow build that lets you really kind of get into what is going on with Alice and really kind of get a feel for her character before the big revelations happen, which I really loved. It does make the start a little bit slow, and so if you're not ready for a slow burning film, you're not going to like it. But I really appreciated that part about it. And the last thing I love, I'm gonna kind of lump this all together because these could all be separate things, but just the style. This film has a really great sense of style. It's not like overly bright, but it has a really smart vision that kind of shines through, especially at the start. At the start, you have these like kind of muted colors, you have kind of muffled sounds. You have this film style that helps to kind of depict Alice's mood. And then when they go on their trip up north, then you have this like really beautiful setting, these like brighter colors. And Alice doesn't like instantly change, but as she, comes to terms with things and as she kind of unpacks some things, you can see the style kind of brighten up as well. And so I really liked how this director, and amazing as a first time director, how she kind of used the canvas of the film to kind of tell the story as well. The things I didn't love as much. The first I'm going to say is some confusing character choices, and this kind of runs counter to my slow build up because I really loved how subtle it was at the start. There is kind of a confrontation scene that happens, and maybe this is just how that character is, but it kind of jumps. It goes from like 0 to 60 very, very quickly. Like it everything was kind of unspoken, and then all of a sudden, boom, things are spoken. And so I thought it felt a little contrived. It felt like maybe they were really trying to push for a confrontation to happen. And I thought this film, it's only like 87 minutes, about an hour and a half. You could have a little bit more time to kind of let some more confrontation happen before this kind of big scene. It just felt like it was there was very subtle, and then all of a sudden there was this big confrontation, and then that's when kind of the revelations happen. And I thought that maybe they could have eased in a little more to that, but again, that was minor. The second thing I did not love, and this is where there will be some spoilers. So if you don't want to know what happens in the film, I would turn this off now. Just, know that I think you should rent it. I think it's an interesting film. I think you should definitely check it out. You don't have to run out to theaters to see it, but it's definitely something to put on your to watch list. The second thing I didn't love is there's a side story about this missing girl. I want to say her name is Amanda. I don't remember exactly, and I don't have access to the film anymore, so I can't check. But I think her name was Amanda. And she had like disappeared, and there was all these concerns about like where was she? There were search parties organized. They were trying to figure out like what happened to her. And I think the film is using this as kind of a like essentially a wait for Alice to see like what could happen, right? Like she's in an abusive relationship. This is kind of the second extreme. Like this person disappears off the face of this earth. And I thought like, okay, like maybe there will be some revelation later. Maybe there will be some connection, and they kind of tease that throughout. This is partly a thriller, and part of that is you don't know what happened to Amanda. You kind of like are unsure throughout, and then later Alice like finds this unknown trail, this like trail that has been missed. She follows it to this kind of like abandoned house. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why would you go there if you think that some person that's disappeared or someone that was murdered or kidnapped is there? And she like goes into the house and explores, and you're like, oh my gosh, she's gonna find Amanda. She's gonna find Amanda. Spoilers. She doesn't find her, but she finds some stuff that she thinks might be hers. She finds like a book, and she finds like a thing of lipstick or lip gloss, something like that. I was like, okay, like maybe she's gonna show this to someone, and they're gonna see it, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's where she was. Nope, none of that ever happens. And worst, if you're any sort of like a true crime person, if you're watching a true crime, Alice like uses this lipstick at some point. I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, A, you're destroying any DNA that might be on there. You're like contaminating it. And B, you think this is like some dead girl's lipstick. Why are you using it? It was just a very strange overall sequence. And then afterwards, you're like, okay, maybe this is going to be some big revelation. Maybe, Alice is going to find her and realize like what could happen to her. But no, a little bit later, there's a newspaper article that tells you that Amanda's body was found, and we don't really ever find out why. So this whole side story was kind of an interesting aspect, and something that kind of was used to both introduce more of a thriller part, and also I think kind of show what could have happened to Alice in the extreme. But it feels underutilized. It feels like maybe it was a really interesting thing at the start, and then they couldn't really feel how to tie it in, or it was just kind of a distraction throughout the film. So I thought it was going to be more integral to the story. It wasn't, and that was a little disappointing. So overall, that is my review of Alice Darling. It's having an LA debut on December 30th, 2022. So you can check it out if you're in LA and you see that specific screening, or otherwise it's going to come wider on January 20th, 2023, right at the start of the new year. Like I said, I think you should rent it. I think you should check it out eventually. You don't have to run to theaters, but if you do, like it is a pretty interesting film. It's a really great directorial debut, and it's a really good performance by Anna Kendrick. She has to do a lot in this film. She has to kind of carry a lot of it, and I thought she did a fantastic job. And also the supporting cast did a great job too. It's a small cast. It's not like a huge number of people, but each person plays a key role in this film and in this overall kind of unpacking of what is going on with Alice. So that is Alice Darling, and thanks so much for watching. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.